Hi, this is Roger. Thanks for dropping by. I'm watering my pots today, except the cooler shadier ones and Derek's pots, so all the other pots. That'll include the holy clay pots. My notes have got out of step. I don't know what's had what. I've been using the sprayer and I need to get back to watering properly and looking at my plants. Checking for bugs, checking for spikes, buds, all that sort of stuff, which when you use a sprayer just tends to get ignored. So this video, should it even exist, I'll explain. As I water the pots, if I come across anything interesting, I'll just switch the camera on and film that plant like here, you know, like I'm filming my coffee cup, and then turn it off again. So it'll be bits and pieces if there is anything to report. And if there isn't, this won't be a video. Does that make sense? Right, let's get going. Right, here's my first little find. I haven't got a clue what that orchid is. Obviously at some point I thought it was worth saving. I don't know what it is, but it's got a spike. Now we might be able to find out what it is. So that's the first little treasure. That's one of the ones that lives up on this back rack here. If I've got an Oncidium type that's not very happy or anything like that, I move it away from the brighter light and try and keep it in a more subdued area. So new growth on that one, not fully mature by any means, and a spike. So we will see what comes of that. Could be interesting. Right, that's number one. Somebody actually asked about this the other day. This is the tatty looking zygo that I got from Burnham's as an experiment, because I seem to be doing a bit better with zygos over a period of time and not killing them all. I got quite a bad plant to see if I could bring it on. Well, the new growths on here are here, here and here, so 3 new growths. And on those 3 new growths, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 spikes that are just starting to form buds. And in this particular spike, there's 3 or 4 buds on there. So I think that's doing pretty good. Still looks a tatty plant, but the plant should get better. Do you know what? I believe there's 2 spikes there as well. That's not a growth. So we've actually got 3 there. And 1, 2 here. This looks a little deformed to me, because what you've actually got there, what you normally get is a growth and 1 or 2 spikes either side. This growth looks like it might be turning into a spike. Anyway, we'll just let it run, see what happens. But blooms down the line, and these new growths, if they push on and mature with some nice leaves, then the plant is going to take on a nicer look, a much nicer look, and we will have the one and only tatty leaf left, which I'll cut off. Anyway, that's coming on, quite pleased with that. I found another little goodie. Now this is Insiclia Lancifolia, and this will be a first time blooming if it makes it. The new growths that have got the spikes are tiny in comparison with previous bulbs, so they're going to be very weak. Now that might mean they can't support those flower spikes and they will abort, but at least it's trying. So we've got 2 spikes there that may or may not succeed. We just have to wait and see. That was one that came from Jeff, I'm pretty sure that came from Jeff's collection. So it might even be labelled wrong if the previous ones had anything to go by. Anyway, another little couple of spikes that these may or may not make it, seriously, because the bulbs are so tiny. Reason unknown, probably poor root system at the time, shock, change of environment, change of media, all that sort of stuff, and we'll see how that goes. We never know. First time bloomer if it does make it. Right, so we're getting over in the far corner now where things get buried behind other plants. Now this is one of Jeff's plants, but it didn't strictly speaking come from Jeff. This came from Marius. Because when Marius got the Dendrobium collection back to his place and started repotting, he found he had quite a few duplicates. And so he gave this one to me. And this has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 new growths. Now this was poor in as much as it had virtually no roots, so it wobbled. It wasn't doing very well. Now all 6 of those growths, possibly 7 actually, are producing roots down into the pot. So this is going to grow, and this is Dendrobium Monolith. I had one of these once and it failed. If you go to Lynn's site, you have to dig through the older videos probably. She's got a collection of Dendrobium moniliform, and these are like the Neophonetia falcatas. In Japan they're like a culture on their own, and people collect all the different varieties of moniliform. They're all the species in effect, but they vary. You know, you'll get a pink form, so they'll give it a name, yeah? And Lynn's got a really large collection of moniliforms, and most of them are named as well. So I believe she has a source. Not a cheek, I mean a source, as in S-O-U-R, you know what I mean. Anyway, it's growing, and it's producing a mass of roots, which will now get into that media and push the plant on even faster. There's a little kiki at the top with, that could be a spike. There, might not be. I don't know. Anyway, that's a little bonus, something that wasn't doing very well because of her poor roots, but was potted up by Marius, given to me, and it's burst into life. So wonderful. I think this will make it now, as opposed to my one. I think my one was mounted and it just didn't do very well. But this one could do. We shall see. And another little bonus. I've always said that I don't grow the Dendrobium phalaenopsis plants very well. I mean, this has got a very poor spike coming on it, but what's far more important is 2 lovely new growths down in the pot, which will produce, well, are producing roots. So that one's going to grow on nicely. Was repotted not too long ago. It hasn't got a tag on it, but I'm pretty sure it was the Spring Eclipse or something like that it was called. It was one I bought back from Burnham's, one of those obligatory, I must go out the door with something in my hand. And when I repotted it, it split, and this was one of the splits, so that's coming on nicely. Yeah, pleased with the new growths and the start of what looks like quite an extensive root system. And in that pot, that'll do well, because it's planted low, there's not a huge amount of media in there, so it won't stay too wet in the winter when we get there. Let's get into summer first, shall we? Anyway, doing okay, pleased with that. Now I'm showing this not because there's any spikes or it's going to come into bloom. It's never bloomed for me. This is Dendrobium delicatum, naturally occurring hybrid, and the latest 2 canes are nice and large. We have nubbins on the end that look like they could turn into spikes, and I can almost certainly say that they never will, and that the chances of this blooming in my environment, unless I do something dramatic, are virtually 0. This needs to drop right down in the winter months and stay bone dry, and I mean dry. And this needs to get down, in the wild this can go down to freezing, and will regularly go down to sort of 5 to 8 degrees. Now I can't do that in here, I only go down to 15. Well, for this that feels like spring. Yeah? So without that drop, I don't think this will ever bloom, so this might eventually have to go to somebody else. I'm going to give it another year. The problem is I know what to do. In the winter time, this needs to go outside when it's mild, not when we're getting really, really cold temperatures. But when it's mild and doesn't drop down below sort of 4 or 5 degrees, this needs to live outside. And if it could do that for a month, maybe 5, maybe 6 weeks, it would bloom. So I know what to do. It's whether I can be bothered with the bringing it in, taking it out, keeping my eye on the weather for one plant. I'm not sure. But the fragrance on this is stunning and powerful. That's why you grow this. It's not for the beauty of the plant, is it? But when these are growing well, they bulk up really, really fast. I've seen these being grown in buckets, you know. Anyway, I just thought I'd show that and explain, if you've got one of these and it doesn't bloom, that's why. It won't be a feed thing, it won't be anything to do with the growing season. It'll be its winter rest needs to be cold. Cold, cold, not just a bit cooler, cold. So there we go, that's my version. Now I'm showing this because it's going down on the floor to be thrown out. It hasn't done anything for a very long time, and there's a change. The change is climbing up from the base, up the canes. This bit is soft, that's rot. This bit is hard. So the base of the plant is rotting. Now that never did any good. I got this because I wanted an antelope type. Yeah? Note the tag. And at a similar time, there's another one on the floor. I'll show you that one. And this also has been put on the floor to be thrown out. It's got dead roots, there are no live roots, and it's just not growing, and I don't think it ever will. Recognise that? They were both got around the same time, and I don't think they'd been long imported, probably hadn't acclimatised very well, and maybe they never would. I don't know how many other people bought them. It'd be interesting to know if anybody bought either of those two. That one is Formosum, handwritten. But they're both, I reckon they were both imported in the same batch. There's something not quite right with them. Unknown, but that's 2 to go now. And that gets me a clay pot back. Yay! I can't get any more of them at the moment. I can make some, bother and all that. Right, that's that. Now this is a black hair type, and like black hair types and cattleyas in this place, they get scale. I think, you know, from any one plant, if there's another one in sniffing range, they organise coach trips and they all stop off and they think, yay, fresh food, and away they go. And, you know, this will now get sprayed. Unfortunately, the black hair types, some of them react quite badly to systemic sprays. But it's going to have some, because I don't want this plant going downhill. It's quite a good one. Right, now this was open for the Sunday chat, but I couldn't get at it. Now, this may well be misnamed as well, because it's called Dendrobium Frosty Dawn Red Lip. Or does that lip look red to you? Because it doesn't to me. But it could be a colour changer, because I'm pretty sure when I first saw that opening, the colour in the throat of the lip was actually quite a pale yellow. Well, it's already getting a deeper colour to it. Massive blooms, huge big bud coming out behind, and the other new growth over this side has buds as well. But notice the imbalance on the plant. The plant that I got were these 3 leafless canes and this one, and I've grown 2 new ones. They're only just over half size, yeah, so that was probably due to, you know, what's going on in the pot more than anything. But nonetheless, we did get 2 new growths, and they are both, well, one's in bloom and the other one's going to follow on behind. They should be long lasting, being a black hair type, providing the spray that I'm about to apply doesn't do any serious harm. I'm not going to spray the whole plant. All I'm going to do is run the spray down in the leaf joints, which is where the worst of them are, and then we'll see where we go from there. But yeah, I thought I'd show you that. Pretty good. I like that a lot. No, it's pity it's a bit lopsided. And the trouble is the other one's going to open and sort of knock it out of line because they're so close together. But nonetheless, a very nice bloom. Very nice indeed. I like that one. We have a happening. My Rossio glossum is quite a large plant. It's quite healthy. It's got quite plump pseudobulbs. However, it did have a slug that munched off the entire new root system a while back on the pair of new growths at the time. And it had been potted back so that the roots had plenty of room to grow and the next bulbs had plenty of room to grow. And so the roots were all nicely sort of exposed, about to go down into the median. They got chomped off. So these two pseudobulbs here lost their roots. And that was the main, would have been the main root system for the plant. We have a happening. What we have now are new growths on those bulbs. Now they are going to be growths, I don't believe they're going to be spikes. Apparently these plants have to get incredibly mature before they'll bloom, like 6, 7, maybe even 8 years, and be strong at the same time. So I'll be happy if I get 2 nice big fat bulbs and a new root system to replace the ones lost some time ago. So something is happening on this, because this has been sat doing nothing for some considerable time. So we have movement, but I don't believe it's going to be blooms. New big fat bulbs, nice new leaves, new roots would be good. And then maybe the next time we'll get the blooms. Who knows? So far this has not bloomed, but it's coming on. It's a big strappy plant, so it's doing okay. And this is one of those coming soon, but not yet. This is my no ID Miltoniopsis hybrid. This is growing well because every new growth that's come up so far has a spike, and some have 2, and there are many new growths. So for me, I couldn't ask for any more from a Miltoniopsis, and I think my Miltoniopsis are going to do better from now on without that intense heat. Yeah? So they can have some brighter light, have a buoyant atmosphere, have some airflow, but not the heat. So that's one stress level less to worry about. So these are not magnificent spikes, only 2 buds, only 1 bud, but there's another spike coming down here. Yeah, there's another one in the middle of the plant with 2 buds on. It's doing okay. It's doing okay. It's got roots. Happy with that. I'm going to have to keep my eye on this because this is now growing well and I don't want that to stop. And it's in cocoa husk. So I need to keep my eye on repotting dates with this cocoa husk, because I am told, I don't know, I haven't been using it long enough, that pure cocoa husk that's kept quite moist because of the type of plant, when it goes off quickly. And it'll take your root system down if you're not aware. And some say a year is about right. Yeah? So we'll have to keep our eye on that. Make sure we don't lose that root system. At the moment it looks quite healthy. There are growing tips. There's a lot of them. I haven't had a Miltoniopsis with a root system like that before. Anyway, blooms on that soon, so I'm not going to put that back where I got it from. So yeah, it's right buried in behind loads of plants. I'll only have to dig it out again because that bud's going to open soon. So we'll put that down on the floor with the Frosty Dawn red lip to find a home where I can see it. And yeah, I'm getting there. Still more to water, but I'm now going to take a break, have a coffee and update me notes. Because we found things that weren't there before, so I've got to make sure. If I wait till the end, I'll have forgotten everything I've seen. I'll be back. Right, two things. One, I'm dripping all over the floor. That's open. Hang on. I'll stop it. One of my Rhinantheras. Basically, they were all put in these open baskets with big bark and moss to try and keep the roots hydrated longer in between waterings. And basically, hopefully, they would grow better. Now, the first thing to notice is the colour of those top leaves. These are getting too much sun, which is a contradiction in terms. These are Vandaceous types that like high light, but how high? But what this could be is that the change, and the change might have been a bit sudden for the plant rather than gradual, because we had a period of not very bright weather, and then we had a period of bright weather, at which point that sun had got high enough in the sky to hit this roof quite hard. It's only for a short period, it's not all day, and I'm going to leave these because they can take the light and they will adapt. It's not going to kill all the leaves off or anything like that. They've just got that tinge, and what this does is it effectively, by changing to that colour, reflects the light away. And it gives them some protection. Yeah? So, but what I wanted to show you was the actual root growth. Now, down at the base of the plant, you can see there's two roots here. And then coming up the plant, we've got one inside that leaf, one round the back here, and another one round the front. Now, those top ones will probably end up being aerial, but the ones down near the base of the plant will go down in the pot. And if I can guide them, I might even be able to get some of those higher up down in the media as well. And also a very old manky root here, sticking out, has now got a new growth on it as well. So we're coming back into root growth. The more roots we get on the plant, the more it can feed, the more it will grow. And yeah. That's the largest of my three. We'll just have a look at the other three. They're here. Now this one, although in exactly the same light, is a nice bright green. And what we've got here is a sign of root growth on this old one sticking out the side there. There's a new root growth, new root tip there. I can't see much else going on, but the top of the plant is growing. So there's enough roots in there in that pot to keep that growth going. And then the last one is the weakest of them, but it's also got the largest leaves. And this one has had to be chopped off because it started to rot. So I had to cut the stem and hope that new roots would grow. Well, we've got this massive new root here, which I've covered with some moss, with a lovely huge big growing tip on it that is going to get down into the media. But we're only left with 3 leaves, and again this is doing the purple thing. So down in the pot, no signs of additional root growth. But if that big strong new root at the top there gets down into the pot, it may branch, I don't know. So that's my 3 Rhinantheras. I wouldn't say they're doing brilliantly. They were one of my let's try a new genus things a few years ago now. So I got 3. I don't want to go mad. You don't go buy 20 or something daft like that. They're all different. 2 are species. One's a primary cross. No blooms, but then relatively, I suppose, they're young plants. But others have said they've got the same one and it's smaller and it has bloomed. So maybe that light will just trigger some spikes along with the purple leaves. So that's that. Now I'm showing this as a sort of yes it can be done type plant. A while back, this is Brassia varicosa sea breeze, and I know at least one other person's got a piece of this and got a bit worried. Now I had to cut a bulb off of here for some reason, so I cut into the rhizome to take that bulb off. The plant has fusarium. Now I say has, I'm hoping it is actually past tense and I can say it had. It was treated twice with the systemic fungicide. Could have done with possibly being done 3 times, but look what's going on. Strong new growth, really strong new growth, and one behind, another strong new growth, another strong new growth, and roots coming out that are not failing. So you could reasonably safely say that one is out of the woods potentially. You always have to bear in mind, if a plant is badly infected with Fusarium, although the new growths might grow clean, the old part of the plant has still got the residual. Now it should be dead. It shouldn't be expanding or multiplying or doing anything at all. But there are chances that a little bit has survived and might get going again, and then potentially can get into the new growths. Brassicas are strong plants. They're also quite vigorous. That seems to be the thing that will allow them to recover reasonably well and reasonably quickly. So we should get blooms on those. If, however, the roots start to fail, when the root tips close over and go brown, and these growths don't get up to full size, we might not get the spikes, in which case it's still, the infection is still moving through the plant. So I'm monitoring it, but I'm not taking much notice of it as it's growing, so we'll leave it be. Yeah, it's doing okay. What more can you say? And this will be the last one for today. It's the last one. It's the last one that's not on the show bench, if you know. Well, show bench, where I put the ones in bloom. Show bench. How flash. Now this has got a long name. This is Bialara Memoria Donald Yamada. It says here. And why I've got this I really don't know, but again, tucked away in a leaf joint we have a spike. Yeah, because this one has been quietly growing this latest bulb for some time. It is almost identical to the previous bulb, which would have been the one I bought it with in bloom. So my one has grown as well as the previous one as far as I'm concerned. And with these types of intergenerics, mass-produced stuff, that's the best you're going to get really. Most of the time they've been forced and pumped up. So the bulbs you buy are the big ones. Yours tend to be equal or a little bit less depending on what happens. Anyway, we're going to have some blooms on that. I can't even remember what they're like, and I've got a horrible feeling that when it was in bloom I didn't actually take a picture, so it'll be a surprise. Anyway, so I'll call that a day because it's virtually lunchtime. I've only got these few left to do, and that's a good morning's work, quite honestly. What I am going to do, because I've got to go out tomorrow and my sister's coming around on Wednesday to do some more money transfers and things, that she's decided some of her money's going elsewhere, all that sort of stuff. I just do it. But I am going to put the spray around the mounts because I doubt if I will get them watered properly tomorrow. So a sprayer is the next best thing. So I've got to be somewhere for sort of like 10:30, 11:15. It's not too far away, but I may, I'm not saying I will, I found a new native orchid place that apparently is this town's well-kept secret, and there was a post on one of the Facebook groups I belong to with some nice pictures of some nice orchids, and the town was mentioned, and I thought, I'm going to look that up. Well, okay, it's the other side of the town, which is a flipping pain, but nonetheless, it's not that far away. And the person I've got to see tomorrow is over halfway there. So it would be silly to waste that journey, if you see what I mean. So I may be doing a native orchid journey tomorrow and a look round. I'll see how it goes, see what the weather's like, see how I feel. But that's one I'll do for today. This is an unprofessional video because it's lots and lots of disjointed clips just butted up together. I'm not mucking about editing or fading in and out and doing it. It's just a sequence of clips. Take it or leave it, as they say. And I'll see you next time. Thanks for dropping by.